First, I understand congratulations are in order. It's your birthday.
You're right, it is my birthday today.
Why do you spend your birthday in Estonia, of all the places? Why do you feel so passionate about preaching IT, cybersecurity, that you don't bother traveling to Estonia, for instance?
It's a thing that's very close to my heart. I mean, I've spent my life with computers. I've spent my whole career around computer security and trying to protect people's security and to protect people's privacy. And I think this is such an important field. And it's also a field which keeps changing all the time. After almost 25 years working in this industry, I still haven't had a boring day.
What do you think about people who put a little sticker on their webcams? For instance, I've seen a picture where an Estonian president was using a laptop that had a sticker on a webcam.
It's a bad idea to put a sticker on your webcam. It's a much better idea to put a band-aid on your webcam, and that's what I do. And when you put a band-aid on your webcam, when you need your webcam, you can just remove the band-aid and it won't leave any glue on your webcam. And I'm 100% sure that I don't have malware on my computer because I'm paranoid about the security of my own computer, but I still have a band-aid on my webcam.
Why?
Just in case.
But for a regular person, do you think I should put a sticker on or a band-aid on my webcam?
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't put a sticker or a band-aid on your webcam. It wouldn't harm anything at all. And just in case somebody's watching, well, that would prevent them from watching.
How do you feel about whistleblowers, such as Mr. Snowden, who told the world that NSA basically watches everything?
I think the internet has changed the whole way organizations think about whistleblowing. I mean, today organizations know that if they are doing bad things, somebody from within will blow the whistle, will tell the world. Things like WikiLeaks and of course Edward Snowden and many other examples have proven that this actually happens today. And it's interesting that, for example, none of the sources of WikiLeaks has ever been caught because of WikiLeaks. So what I'm saying, we have the technology today for anybody to blow the whistle on wrongdoings without getting caught for blowing the whistle. And I would like to think that this will automatically guide organizations to work in a more ethical way, because they know that if they do bad things or evil things, somebody from within their own organization will tell the world.
Is NSA so omnipotent as we have been led to understand?
The problem with the US intelligence agencies is that the whole world uses US-based services. We are all running US-based operating systems, we use US-based cloud services, US-based search engines, US-based social media, and the laws inside the United States don't protect us at all. As foreigners using these US-based services, we have no privacy rights at all. And that's a problem because 96% of the planet are people who are foreigners when you look at it from the point of view of the United States. And it's also a good example on how Europe has failed to build global IT companies.
Okay, but security-wise, this is a problem. Is there a backdoor in all these big services, big softwares, US origin software?
We actually don't have information about backdoors in things like Windows or Cisco routers. It's arguable that they probably don't exist. However, when US companies collect information, for example, Google collects vast amounts of information about every citizen in the world, the question is how large access do the intelligence agencies have to that data?
Recently, we got the new Windows 10. What are the problems, security-related problems or privacy-related problems there that you can see?
If we want to keep the internet open and free for future generations, we have two main problems to solve. Problem number one, security. Problem number two, privacy. And these are quite conflicting things to worry about. For example, from the security point of view, Windows 10, the latest offering from Microsoft, is clearly superior to anything else they've released before. From purely security point of view, it's a no-brainer to upgrade to Windows 10. But from the privacy point of view, it's a different story. I mean, Windows 10 is reporting much more information about the user back to Microsoft than earlier versions of Windows. So many of these decisions are actually trade-offs. How highly do you rank your privacy? How highly do you rank your security?
What does this actually mean then?
Users should take extra care of protecting their privacy. It will not be done for you. If you install a new operating system, it might provide you with better security, but it might not provide you with good privacy, which means you have to take care of it by yourself with add-on tools like encryption tools, tools which will encrypt your hard drive, encrypt your communication, encrypt your messaging, and so on. It has to be added later by the user if the user cares about his privacy. An easy example would be that user goes to a cafeteria and connects to an open hotspot, to a Wi-Fi, and then surfs the web. Well, anybody in the same cafeteria can connect to the same Wi-Fi and use a simple tool to collect the traffic in the wireless network. It's not encrypted by default. The user will not get any protection for that particular privacy violation unless the user himself uses a tool which encrypts the Wi-Fi traffic.
Why do you think that is?
I think we've lost a great opportunity over the history of the internet in how we've taught a whole generation of people that on the internet everything is supposed to be free. For some reason, we ended up with this situation that the same things that you would pay money for in the real world, on the internet, you don't pay money for them. Like, reading news. In the real world, you go and buy a newspaper with money. In the online world, you just go and search for news. And that is problematic in many senses because there are no free lunches. Of course, the news or the weather reports or, movies online, which seem to be free, aren't really free. You will pay for them one way or another. And if you're not paying with money, then you're typically paying with your privacy.
And this information that you have given away as a reimbursement, what do they do with that?
Large companies like Google or Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, they basically make all their money by building profiles of you and me, and then selling those profiles to their customers, and those customers are advertisers. And it's really eye-opening to go to one of these services, not as a user, but as a customer. I mean, what I mean is that you go to, let's say, Facebook, and you buy an ad. You take out your credit card, you spend $2, and you buy an ad on Facebook. That's going to open up your eyes, because then you'll see just how detailed the targeting is. Like, you can buy an ad which is only going to be shown to people in, say, Tartu area who are males between 20 to 25 years old who are interested in fishing, and Facebook will tell you that, yeah, there's like 391 people like this. So they are able to figure out who we are, where we are, who do we communicate with, what we're interested in, and it goes beyond that. For example, Twitter knows what kind of credit cards you use or what kind of products you buy, and they're actually collecting this information from multiple sources outside of Twitter to be able to create as detailed profiles on all of us. And we don't really yet understand what this means, because we are really the first generation that's living all their lives online. We're sort of like test dummies who are now tested to check what it means when all of our life and all of our communication is being collected and analyzed and resolved.
Coming more specifically to Estonia and intelligence, there was recently news that a very significant Estonian governmental authority bought basically Kaspersky antivirus systems. So is it a problem that so many Estonian authorities use a Russian origin antivirus system?
We have never found any kind of backdoors or vulnerabilities left on purpose inside any Kaspersky tools. So there's nothing obvious in there which would tell you that you shouldn't be running this. But in a way, I'm not surprised that some people are worried about this connection, because you could always argue that there's nothing in there, but in times of crisis or in times of conflict, there would be a way in. And security products are running on your system with very low-level rights. They could do anything at all on your system. So people might be worried even though there is no practical reason for the worry right now.
Another interesting piece of software is Finfisher. Just for people who don't know what it is, briefly.
Finfisher is a malware product which is being produced by a company headquartered in United Kingdom and Germany, and they actually sell it legally for governments for intelligence gathering and for surveillance purposes.
So spying on people.
It's a malware tool used by governments to spy on their people, typically during legal investigations.
So if WikiLeaks exposed that Estonian authorities bought well over €1 million worth of fin fisher. What should regular people think about that?
Well, it's not a surprise that law enforcement all over the world is interested in gathering evidence from the internet. I mean, almost every criminal today uses the internet. And I'm not speaking about cyber criminals. Even the average murderer will make Google searches like, how do I hide the murder weapon? So of course legal investigations require access to the internet. The really crucial point about this is that citizens need to know what their governments are doing. Citizens need transparency. So if the local police officers have the legal right to infect their citizens with malware, the citizens need to be aware of that. Beyond that, we should get some kind of information about how successful intrusive tools like these are. For example, let's say that the Estonian police last year infected 100 citizens with malware. First of all, we don't know how many they did infect, but we should know what the number is. Second question is, how many of those cases were successful? Like, how many of those people turned out to be innocent? And how many of those actually turned out to be bad people who should be caught? If 99% of the people turn out to be innocent, well, then the law enforcement probably shouldn't have that right. However, if 99% of those people who were infected with governmental malware turned out to be drug traffickers and school shooters, then they probably should have that right. But right now, we don't know which one it is, and that's why we need transparency. The citizens need transparency so they can make the right decisions on what kind of tools the law enforcement can use.
There's a widespread conception in Estonia that the world's first cyber war was waged between, very simply put, Estonia and Russia during the Bronze War affair, shall we say. How do you feel about that?
The 2007 incident here clearly was very important, like a watershed moment in history. But I wouldn't call it a war. I don't think it was first cyber world war or first cyber war, because we shouldn't use these words too lightly. First of all, clearly it wasn't a war because we had no real world conflict. Estonia wasn't in a war. There was riots on the streets. I think the closest equivalent would be gang wars. Just like we have real wars and real gang wars right now in cities like Sao Paulo and elsewhere. They are important things, but they're different things. And what was happening here in Estonia 8 years ago clearly was important, but it wasn't a war. Just like I don't call Stuxnet a cyber war attack, because there was no war between the parties at the time. The closest we could probably label Stuxnet was cyber sabotage. The closest we should probably label the 2007 attacks here in Estonia were cyber street riots.
Stuxnet, an interesting topic. For people who don't know what it is, could you briefly explain?
Stuxnet was an operation launched in late 2008 by the governments of the United States and Israel targeting the nuclear enrichment systems in Iran. It was a successful cyber attack which delayed the Iranian nuclear enrichment process by roughly 18 months or so.
You have called it a game changer in cybersecurity. Why?
Well, within cybersecurity fields, we speak about time before Stuxnet and about time after Stuxnet. That's how important it was. And probably the most important thing Stuxnet did was that it caused physical damage. It wasn't just deleting files or crashing computers, it was actually physically destroying centrifuges. And when those centrifuges were destroyed, they were destroyed violently, they were exploding. And that's important because that actually means that the attacker took the chance of actually killing human beings while launching a cyber attack. Now, we don't know if the Stuxnet catastrophic failures caused by Stuxnet inside Bushehr nuclear plant in Iran actually killed people or not. It's perfectly possible nobody died, but just the likelihood, just the idea that the attackers knew that what we're doing here might actually kill people and they did it anyway, things that I think we crossed the border when that attack was launched. The worst worries I had 5 years ago when we found Stuxnet is that we would immediately start seeing copycats from other sources than where original Stuxnet was coming from. That other countries or other groups would take Stuxnet and modify it to target other factories and to do other kinds of damage. And that hasn't, luckily, happened. What has happened, though, is we've seen massive explosion in offensive activity done by all kinds of governments. It's now routine to see governmental malware written by governments like United States or United Kingdom or Israel or Russia or China or North Korea or Iran or India or Pakistan. I mean, this has become an ever-increasing rate of new governmental malware. We still are at the very early stages of this race, but it's clearly an arms race and it's underway right now.
Can you give an example of a successful governmental malware?
We spent almost a year investigating a case that we call the Dukes. It's a family of 9 different malware cases. There might be more, but we found 9 so far. And it's an operation which already started in 2008. And this is, as we believe, an operation run by the Russian government. It's a Russian intelligence gathering operation where they've used a family of different malware in around 20 different countries to steal information. So they're not trying to destroy anything. It's not like Stuxnet, it's not destructive. It's a spying operation. And we believe it's an operation which the Russian government is running to support their decision making.
Coming to more recent events, I understand that cyber criminals have taken advantage, for instance, of the crisis in Ukraine and even the refugee crisis.
Whenever there's a big news item going somewhere in the world, we always see attacks which try to ride on the publicity of that news case. Typically phishing attacks or spam or just ways of getting people to click on email attachments. So if there's something big happening, you can expect that some online criminals will be misusing just the headlines to get people's attention, to get people to click on links or to get people to click on attachments. The actual malware that then actually is coming from those links or attachments has nothing to do with the cases, just a way of getting people's attention.
If we talk about personal security, almost everybody has a smartphone in his or her pocket. How do you protect your communication device?
Well, first of all, I run a series of different kinds of tools and different kinds of machines myself, different laptops, different phones. I keep changing the brands and operating systems, just so first of all, to learn more about different systems, and also I think it protects myself better. So it's better operational security, so nobody actually knows what exactly you're running today. Then I go to great lengths to encrypt my data on all of my devices and to back up my data in all cases. So for example, I do have my laptop sitting right over there in my backpack, and if somebody could actually steal that. But if somebody would steal my laptop, it wouldn't actually matter. It's encrypted with encryption, which we believe is unbreakable, so they wouldn't be able to steal my data, only the laptop. And it's backed up around 5-6 hours ago, so I would have all my data intact. So when you do things right, it doesn't actually matter if you are targeted with a physical attack or somebody steals your gear. The only thing you're going to lose is the physical machine, which is easy to replace.
How much worse has the general cybersecurity situation become, let's say, over the past 5 years or 10 years? How much has it increased in complexity and in volume, the attacks?
Today, organized crime online has become much more complex in their attacks. They can afford to invest much more into their attacks, and we have completely new kinds of attackers to worry about, especially governmental attacks. And now lately, we've seen the first examples of extremists or terrorist groups using cyber attacks for their goals as well.
Such as?
Islamic State is the first and so far only real-world extremist group which has a credible cyber offensive capability. They have actual capable hackers among their ranks. In fact, some of these guys are so skillful that, for example, the United States Army has launched drone strikes against them to actually kill these guys, to kill hackers. And that's sort of like something you would expect to read from a science fiction book, that US Army is using unmanned drones to kill hackers. But this is actually going on right now.
A whole new frontier is what you call, or specialists call, Internet of Things. Explain this to us.
All the gadgets and appliances you would buy to your house, well, they always used to connect to electricity grid. You would plug them in to get power. Well, all of those devices that you used to plug in to your electricity grid will from now on also plug in to the internet grid. So they will be connected to the internet for various purposes. And this doesn't have to be things that you assume to go online, like your smart TV, which of course is online because you can browse the web from your TV. But even simple things like your microwave oven or your washing machine or your car or your watch. So everything that uses power will pretty soon or already today be online. And this is problematic because the selling point of your toaster or your microwave oven isn't computer security, yet they are being put online. And the companies that build these in Far East, well, they will end up investing the minimum money amount possible to build the security in these things. So we are probably facing a whole range of new problems from all these devices, from these billion new devices we will be putting online.
So for example, a security specialist such as yourself in a country should perhaps worry about a Wi-Fi connected toaster that is being used, shall we say, in a nuclear plant, that can be a security risk.
Many of these IoT devices or connected devices are not being targeted by attackers because of the device itself. I mean, a toaster or a light bulb isn't really an interesting target. The reason why they are being targeted is that they can often be used as a vector to gain access to where the attackers really want to get to. So for example, we have seen cases where internet connected light bulbs have been hacked, not to gain access to the light bulb, but because the light bulb is connected to the corporate Wi-Fi. And by hacking the light bulb, you can gain access to the password for the corporate Wi-Fi. And that's the way for the attacker to get where they want to go.
What is the phenomena that is worrying you the most at the moment?
The thing that keeps me up at night is our factories. We can speak about Internet of Things and about toasters and microwave ovens. Well, they're online. The problem is that our factories are more and more online as well. Our factories, our power plants, our food processing plants, it's all being controlled by PLCs and software. And we, computer security people, we used to think that our job is to secure computers. Now we are realizing that actually everything around us is being run by computers and software. And our job is changing from securing computers into securing the society, securing the infrastructure around us. And that's a big task for us to do.
Modern society has become so dependent on this technology that it has become a problem.
Sometimes I feel like we've built a monster by putting everything online. And don't get me wrong, I love the internet. It's obvious that the internet has brought us so much good, so much opportunity, so much more communication, so much more connectivity, so much more entertainment, so much more business. But at the very same time, it's also exposed us to completely new kinds of risks. And that's why I sometimes worry that we've actually built a monster around us.
You have a very interesting idea or conception about the moment when computers become smarter than people.
It's fascinating to follow the research being done in artificial intelligence world. For example, European Union is right now funding a university program in which we are trying to model the human brain. And that means if we are able to model the human brain, one day we will be able to move our thoughts and memories from our bodies to a computer, which means when we die, when we physically die, our memories will live on. And for example, our future generations can still speak with us, even though we're no longer alive. And these are the material of science fiction books, like everlasting memories and artificial intelligence. And the developments in artificial intelligence are very fast, very quick right now. It's perfectly possible that we will see singularity, which means computers that are smarter than we are during our lifetime. And the moment when we invent the first computer, which is even slightly smarter than we are, well, that's the last moment we ever have to invent anything anymore. Because now we have a superior being, smarter being than ourselves on the planet, and it can invent better, smarter artificial intelligence much faster than we can. And it's a little bit scary thought, and we have to be very careful about that moment when we go from being the smarter entity on the planet to the second smarter entity on the planet. It's sort of like a basic evolutionary mistake to introduce a superior being into your own biosphere, but it's most likely going to happen during our lifetime.
Sounds a lot like the Terminator stuff,
It does sound like the stuff you see in movies all the time. And that's
you
why
think this is, you're saying this is a real threat?
I think it's something we have to be really careful about when we cross the border, that we do it in a way that it will work. Because if we screw it up, we will not get a second chance.